I think the stars need to constellate in a very specific way, in a very specific pattern, in order for our soul to be able to come into this vessel, into this 3D reality, because our souls need to move through certain portals to be able to embody themselves. And I do not think that our whole soul is incarnated in our bodies at the moment. I think our bodies wouldn't be able to hold this energy. So I think we have a lot of parallel lives where our souls make their, or parts of our souls make their individual journey again, which makes it even more complex. So, yeah, I think that the moment of our birth is very significant because this feels like a portal.
Well, hello, Miriam. It's so wonderful to have you as my first guest on my channel, Balance and Blissful Energies. And
Oh,
um,
wow. Congratulations to you,
yeah,
Elizabeth. And thank you for inviting me.
my pleasure, my pleasure. I'm a big fan of your work. So, Miriam is an emerging voice in the global galactic astrology community and a highly sought after galactic family constellations guide. She is trusted by many as a spiritual advisor. Miriam creates a pathway for you to align with your soul's cosmic journey and unlock your full potential. Through her unique approach, she uncovers your star system origins and activates your galactic gifts. She empowers you to reconnect with your soul family and gain clarity on your mission, relationships, and health. Miriam guides you to live a life of flow, fulfillment, and empowerment. When not creating transformation for clients worldwide, Miriam is on geomantic expeditions, tending to her magical garden and writing her next book on starseeds and their mission here on Earth. So, welcome, Miriam.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Absolutely. I've been looking forward to it for a while now. And yeah, so I was drawn to you because of galactic astrology, and we share a common bond through Patrice Christofiak and the collection of mostly women that he's assembled around himself.
We wonder why that is, right?
I know, yeah, yeah, exactly. But I think I'm pretty sure that you came into my YouTube feed even before then, and I was actually really happily surprised when I saw you in the same Zoom room, and I was like, "Oh, so cool! She's connected." So yeah, tell me about your entry into galactic astrology. And I think you mentioned that first you were doing family constellations and then expanded. So yeah, please share.
I'll start with family constellation because that is what I've been doing since 2012. And I didn't know it was part of my awakening then. For sure, it was part of my healing path. After severe depression and psychotherapy, I discovered family constellation and I found out that there is a possibility to learn it yourself. And I've been very passionate about this modality because it is not only looking at your, natal family and the dynamics there, but it is a transgenerational approach to heal ancestral trauma and everything that is inherited through your family line. But this is not the only this is not the only thing we can resolve with family constellation. We can heal ourselves, our organs, and I would love to talk with you about that and the implementation into medicine and into the healing field. And at some point, I discovered galactic astrology through my teacher, Julia Ballas, and I was so excited because it kind of bridges a lot of what I've been passionate additionally to family constellation, which is extraterrestrial life, the stars, and our spiritual evolution. And galactic astrology bridges this. So by reconnecting us with the let's say the wisdom of the stars and our colleagues from the past in Persia, Egypt, and then the Greek astrologers who were astronomers also included the fixed stars in their astrology, and it was just forgotten a couple of years ago, let's say, when we decided to move towards the more to individualization and our individual path. And now we are opening up this field again and reconnect with our soul's history and soul's journey in the galaxy.
Yeah. I think it's a beautiful way that you just opened it up, and it evoked so many thoughts in me about this sort of, as you mentioned, individuation. So we were, as a human family, much more connected to the spiritual and the galactics, probably at some point in our far distant past. And we've come to a point of extreme sort of separation, if you will. And you can look at that from both the spiritual perspective, the galactic perspective, but also the interpersonal perspective, because it's all right, microcosm, macrocosm. And now we're starting to reawaken to that connection that we have. We're feeling like within our we have no borders anymore, right? Or we're close to having no borders anymore. Of course, there's always a tension there. But in the human family across the nations, what is a nation, et cetera. And then we're starting to also now discover or remember that we have family from non-Earth sources, and we get drips of information from government sources like, oh yeah, we kind of have this information, these craft, technology, etc. So it's a really beautiful point where we find ourselves in, from the standpoint of just having so much potential to open up, to really expand and think of ourselves as more than just this small being trapped in a body. And so, yeah, how, go ahead.
No, I think you're absolutely right. You covered a lot of topics we could talk about for hours, I suppose.
True.
Um, Disclosure is really a big topic, I believe, and it will happen more and more, especially with the golden triangle that is going to form in the next couple of months, with Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto having their encounter after many years and in a very potent way. But maybe we talk about this later. I think it was a necessary path we took as a collective to understand that we are part of a tribe, the human tribe, because we have decided to incarnate in this human body in this form. And we wanted to explore what this means, the entanglements, but also the joy being part of a tribe, of a family. And at some point, we really needed to do this evolutionary leap to say we are beings beyond that. We are very specific and I would not say special, but unique beings
Mm-hmm.
in this human body, in this human form. We have decided to incarnate here to understand ourselves and to reconnect with our soul that is so vast and had a journey that is beyond everything we can imagine here. I am quite sure of that. And we brought a lot of technology here too, stored in our
Yeah.
DNA and beyond.
Yeah, that's also a huge topic that really interests me. And maybe we can just segue now because all of these things that both of us have just talked about, we could go down rabbit holes for hours on each of them, but we'll just try to stay on track here. Um, Speaking about technologies and our DNA, there have been prior civilizations than our current recorded civilization, haven't there?
I am very sure of it, yes. And how do I start? We have received information from many star families who have visited Earth before, and I could name some people here who have thought about this, who have researched it, and I am quite sure that our ancient civilizations received guidance and knowledge from beyond Earth. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense that we made these huge leaps in sacred geometry, sacred mathematics, astrology, astronomy, our calendars, the way we calculate. Also, I still have a question around that because for my for my brain, mathematics never made sense. I believe it is something very much invented here on Earth, but I don't know. And so, yes, we and many of our myths are also based on the gods that came from the sky, that came from beyond. And I really believe that those gods actually were our ancestors, our galactic ancestors, our star families who supported us here on Earth with our evolutionary journey.
Yes. And, like with this idea that we come from, yeah, star families, extraterrestrials, there's also for me the question of, well, but we also know, or at least I feel like I know that there are non-physical beings that we are connected with that we also um, have been shaped through, like when you talk about, for example, the um, angels, for instance. Yeah, all of the lore about angels. That's not only in Christian lore, there are other traditions that also have that concept. And even though they may have presented themselves in a form that could be considered physical, they weren't really physical, they were beings of light. And there is a connection with the stars there as well, isn't there?
Yes, this is a really good question, Elizabeth, because I think there are our souls when they embark on their journey in our universe, when they fractalize from source, as I like to say it, because we do not just separate from the source, we are always part of it. So fractalizing from it makes the most sense to describe it in a, let's say, in a more visual way. Our souls tend to incarnate then or move into a soul family of origin. That can be the angelic realm or the archangelic realm. That can also be the dragon realm or the fae or the elemental realm. There are so many. And it is always so interesting to track this journey when I dive into the Akashic records of my clients, because this is the first thing I do. I look beyond our galaxy and I try to understand where this soul comes from, what kind of vibrational frequency it has, and what kind of soul mission it decided to take on. And I believe, therefore, we are connected to our original soul family that is beyond the stars, really. And we carry this frequency into this reality. And that's why I believe, yes, there is this idea of angels being by our side, guiding us and more so having our back. And we can also track the angeligram through galactic astrology, because we are looking at the 4 royal stars in our galactic chart. They have been called royal stars by our Persian ancestors, who attributed a lot of angelic and archangelic power to them. And we can find them in the charts and see if there are connections to the planets, our personal planets in the birth chart.
Yeah. I think I have Antares connected to my Neptune. And
You do. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then Aldebaran. No, I don't have a connection to Aldebaran. It's just on the other side.
Yeah, it's on the opposite side, because they form a kind of a let's say, a
Cross.
divine cross.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Regulus and Fomalhaut, I think you have Fomalhaut connected to your Mercury, though.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of Archangel Michael frequency around how you think, how you teach, how you learn, and how you communicate, especially.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, probably also had something to do with my attraction to anthroposophy and anthroposophic medicine, because
Ah,
it's a very strong connection with Archangel Michael there. And
that's interesting.
the School of Spiritual Science is supposed to be, part of the part of Archangel Michael's school, I guess. Yeah, on Earth.
That is really fascinating. I think we have to talk about this more, Elizabeth.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then also, just thinking back on ancient civilizations, let's talk a little bit about Atlantis and Lemuria, because you mentioned something about my chart that I didn't know. That Atlantis featured rather strongly. The asteroid Atlantis features strongly on my chart. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, okay, what does that mean? So what does that mean?
Okay. Yes, Atlantis has come up more and more in the recent years, and especially, I think, last year, at least in my consciousness, it started to really, really activate. So Atlantis is not a planet that we usually include in our, well, traditional astrology, the classical astrology. But it, with the fixed stars and the opening up the horizon to beyond our star system, of course, we also look at the asteroids in the asteroid belt, which is part of our solar system. We just haven't given it much attention. There are thousands of them, and they have been called individually by names, or they have been given names by the astronomers who found them. And Atlantis is one of those asteroids. And Atlantis is sitting in your 10th house, near the midheaven.
Mm-hmm.
It sits at 11 degree 46 minutes in Libra for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it is connected to a star system which we call the Raven, and here with the fixed star Algorab. And you do not have any other connections to Algorab in your galactic chart except for Atlantis. And that is something very interesting, I believe, because Algorab is very much connected to the divine masculine consciousness. And if we look at the raven, we also have to look at the serpent star family, because they represent the divine feminine. And with Atlantis, a lot of that imbalance between the divine feminine and masculine is coming up with Libra and with Atlantis sitting in your zodiac sign of Libra. This is really something special, but we can also talk a bit about your personal placement, if you like, because with Atlantis, I believe that you have a very special mission here on Earth. And I think it is about, let me see my notes. I think it is your path is not about radical assertion or emotional dominance, which could be the shadow side of Atlantis, but also cultivating a gentle, harmonious connection by rediscovering the Atlantean and the Lemurian wisdom in togetherness. And I say Lemuria because we do not have an asteroid Lemuria. And that bothered me for a long time. So I thought, and there are a lot of, workarounds with Lemuria, and that never kind of made me happy. So I thought, if we do not find Lemuria as an asteroid, maybe it is just the opposite point of the Atlantis in our chart. So if you have Atlantis, so when you have Atlantis at 11 degrees Libra, then your Lemuria point would be at 11 degrees Aries. And this axis could talk about could talk more about your connections to Atlantis and Lemuria. This is something that I am exploring at the moment. It is not a classical astrological thought here, but more and more I come to believe we cannot talk about Atlantis without talking about Lemuria.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's it's I'm going to bring in Rudolf Steiner again. Sorry. But he taught that the Lemurian time came before the Atlantean time.
Yes.
Yeah. And the way that he described it was very it was as if though we weren't quite the human beings that we are now. We lived in I think that he was seeing it from his view of as he says, of higher worlds, his clairvoyant view, where at the Atlantean stage, yes, we had a little bit more physicality, but we still weren't fully physical like we are now. And at the Lemurian stage, we had even less. So there was a sense of we were much more connected at that time with the spiritual and the ethereal than later in Atlantis. It began sort of maybe materializing a little bit more. Now, I know that some people say that they both existed at the same time, and maybe it's true that there was some overlap, but we actually can't really 100% know. We just have channeled material and what people can intuit. But certainly this experience of the splitting between the masculine and feminine is echoed a lot in many different transmissions and experienced personally, right? We experience that in our lives. At least I have experienced it when it's been too much of that male dominance, patriarchal, that I have felt disempowered in a way in certain settings, like either in a work setting or in a relationship setting. And other times where I've also felt the more strong feminine, almost shadow feminine of manipulation and deceit type of thing. So we have to bring, I'm fully into this healing that shadow aspects of both the masculine and feminine to come to that union of the divine feminine and divine masculine within each one of us.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
It is an inner journey in the first place because we do not have we do not have an outer reflection of Atlantis and Lemuria yet. I think that what we all call New Earth definitely has to do something with Atlantis and Lemuria. That's why at least Atlantis comes up in our collective consciousness so much. And we really need to understand what went wrong then. And we also have to understand that we are at this kind of turning point again. Atlantis obviously started as a big utopia. As far as we know from the channeled material, the only idea we have about Atlantis is from Plato with his dialogues in Timaeus and Critias. But beyond that, we do not know much about it. And Lemuria, for sure, is definitely channeled material by the Theosophic movement. And this makes it really very exciting, I have to say. Bringing together this classical approach, the classical Mediterranean approach of civilization and theory, and then this more, how can you say, higher guidance that came through Blavatsky and then obviously Steiner as well. So maybe we can talk about Atlantis and Lemuria as a spiritual realm rather than a real or a realistic realm. Nonetheless, they both hold a lot of learning material for us when we talk about New Earth, because we have to move towards the future, at least in our perspective of time, which is linear at the moment, at least. How can we integrate and incorporate the idea of Atlantis and Lemuria? And that's why I am so interested in finding tracks in our charts here. So what memories come up if we activate those points in our chart? Is it maybe the early time of Atlantis, where we decided to really build this utopia by coming from this Lemurian energy of, let's say, of a more unity consciousness, and build a society or build a civilization that explores the duality more? And then when we had the second phase of Atlantis, because we talk about three phases of Atlantis, the beginning and then the bloom, the blossom of it, the high culture that we have built there, and then the descent and fall of Atlantis. What happened with Lemuria, we do not know so much about that, do we? It kind of faded away in our awareness, and therefore I think it would be interesting to activate this memory as well and see where we took the wrong exit, let's say. What we can learn from that for our time now, because we are at this moment in time where we really have to make a decision. Do we want to grow up as a human society, as a human collective? Do we really want to become a galactic society, what our star families so hope for and work for behind the scenes? And how do we incorporate what we learned from Lemuria and Atlantis?
Yes. And I think really the Atlantean teaching, what to learn from Atlantis. Of course, there is the, I don't want to always just blame the masculine because we've labeled it in this dualistic way of
Yeah.
feminine and masculine, and but it was the whole of humanity that was going through that stage of development and exploring, I guess, exploring technologies. And it's interesting. I'm reading a book right now by Carl Sagan. I don't know if you know him. He passed away in 2016. Yeah, you do. So he had a series called The Atlantean Secrets. which he doesn't say that it was channeled or anything. He just said, take this as a mystery teaching in a way through myth, through mythology. But it's very clear that the message he was trying to convey, it has to do with the abuse of technology, but at the same time, it was this transition of relying on everything to just come in magically from the greater soul spirit that we are, to activating something within us, within the physicality, to be able to think in a different way, right? And Steiner also talks about this, that we really needed to develop the intellectual soul, is what he calls it, right? You really need the humanity needed to learn to think for themselves, that thinking is actually a spiritual process.
Oh, I agree. I agree
Yeah, yeah.
100%.
But
Because, yes,
yeah,
sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Elizabeth.
but thinking is, it is a technology if you want to think about it. Pardon the pun, but it doesn't come with training wheels, and you can get into a lot of trouble. And we have gotten ourselves into a lot of trouble because we've been able to develop some amazing things, technologies. So we externalize our internal experience, right? We are creating our thoughts become things. But without that backing of also a very well developed moral and ethical thinking, that's where you get that lopsidedness, and we get into hurting each other, hurting this lovely planet that we're on, etc. And yeah, this is the that point that we're at, that tipping point, where are we there yet? Can we take that evolutionary step? Can we really move forward, not getting rid of all of the technology that we've developed, but actually applying it in a moral, holistic, loving way?
It is a question of morality, of course, as well, and we have to mediate the questions around that. I am quite sure of it as well. But yes, I think the Lemurian way of existing and developing was more like an intuitive beingness, where we can apply the feminine traits here, like receiving from the outside, really being creative by letting the information come in, and then digesting it and synthesizing it. Or we could, maybe that was more than the way of the Atlantean civilization, really create by using our discernment and our mental capacity. And in the end, it is about uniting both, and we know how difficult it is. And we are definitely more brainy in our ways of being, and being intuitive is considered more, not, of course, it's not technological in a way, and of course, it's not scientific in a way, but it holds a lot of wisdom. And the
Absolutely.
question is, how do we balance it? And I find this so interesting that we are having this discussion with your Atlantis in Libra. And we really have to find out how can we negotiate both energies within us, because we hold them. And how can we negotiate it also in the outside world? We really have to do that. I mean, look at what's going on.
Yeah.
The conundrum we are in at the moment, how can it get even worse? I think only by moving through it and really, really Also, interestingly, also by using our mental capacity to manifest what we really want to create.
Absolutely, yes, yes. That is going back to, yeah, going back to energy, our energy, and how we use it, how we, how our thoughts impact our energetic field and bring something to life, to manifestation. And this is also a topic that fascinates me, energy work. That's something that already when I was, in my 20s, I had an interest in, but then I was like, yeah, okay, I have to do this real medicine first. And I did. But it ties in so well with understanding astrology, with understanding how it is that where planets and stars were when we were born still influences us until we die.
Yes, isn't that peculiar?
Yeah. We have this like resonant imprint in our fields, right? Um, yeah, that's how I see it. I see it as sort of like this, um, well, if you wanted to put it into more modern terms, we get like this sort of QR code when we come in. Or some kind of, yeah, it's something that is very specific to each one of us. And with those, yeah, I don't know, whenever any new any vibration comes in from one of these planets or a constellation of planets, etc., then we vibrate in a particular way. It makes us behave and think in a particular way. It even makes our organs, yeah, it even makes our organs either susceptible or strong to disease. I mean, the whole topic, the whole area for me is just like, oh, I love it.
I know that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe, you can also, where we could look at astrology as a technology itself, and we can approach it from a more mental view or an intuitive view, or an energetic view, if you like. And if we follow that thought for a moment, I think the stars need to constellate in a very specific way, in a very specific pattern, in order for our soul to be able to come into this vessel, into this 3D reality, because our souls need to move through certain portals to be able to embody themselves. And I do not think that our whole soul is incarnated in our bodies at the moment. I think our bodies wouldn't be able
Agree.
to hold this
Yeah.
energy. So I think we have a lot of parallel lives where our souls make their, or parts of our souls make their individual journey again, which makes it even more complex.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I think that the moment of our birth is very significant because this feels like a portal to me. And when I look at a chart, it is not only just, I could look at it on a very, in a very intellectual way and analyze it to death, really. But I like to tune in more intuitively, the Lemurian way, let's say, and track the energy. And then it is like, combination lock. The planets, the placements in the houses with the zodiac signs, it kind of starts like swirling and turning, and then this kind of portal opens up where I can connect to the higher self of the client, and then the stories unfold.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I have to say that I also experience, because I'm not an astrologer, but I do look at clients' charts um, before I even meet with them to make that connection. And it really is so powerful. Yeah. I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that.
Yes, it makes so much sense. And
Yeah.
even, doctors 150 years ago, if they didn't use astrology, they weren't real doctors, were they? This was a tool, a medicine tool. And you are more adept at medicine and astrology than I am, I think. So let's talk a bit about that, Elizabeth. How does this? So now I'm asking the question, but it's out of curiosity. How do you implement it in your healing?
Yeah, so I'll clarify that I don't have time to implement it in my medical practice because we see patients very quickly, and yeah, it doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, that's just the
Mm,
system that we're in. But when I practice with clients in a private setting where the expectation is not for medicine, to be clear, but more of an intuitive interaction, then I look to see where first, like, what is the essence of the soul, just from the placements of the planets. I don't know how else to explain it. It just speaks to me in a certain way. And then I look at where they are now in their. So I look at, for example, a progressed chart, and then I'll look at the transits as well. Like why did they choose to have a call with me now? Like
yes,
what is it that's triggering? And it's so interesting, when the when the nodal axes shifted into Virgo, Pisces,
yes,
I was getting a whole bunch of older clients that I had, like I was like, wow, didn't expect it at all. Usually, the clients are more in my age range, and I was getting clients who were even 80, mid 80 years of age, and they were having, nodal returns. I don't know if that's fully, I think so. Remember seeing a lot of these nodal, not full necessarily full nodal returns, but already within the range. Yeah.
yes.
So big things I see that typically trigger a reason to connect with me, and that's probably true for any other connection that they're making at that time. Yeah,
Yes, but
that's
it makes a lot of sense, especially, yes, with the nodal axis moving into Virgo, Pisces, which talks about the healing of the physical healing, but also the mental and psychological healing, or soul healing, if you wish.
mm-hmm.
And also, so if those people who have a nodal return experience that very strongly, yes, I believe that it is not a collective, it is not only a collective energy, it is a very individual energy as well. Makes a
Yeah,
lot of sense.
yeah,
And for
yeah.
all the
So,
others, it's about healing the earth. It's just simple as it is.
but let's talk about the Earth now. So you mentioned at the beginning the golden triangle that's coming up, and that is going to have a very strong impact, I think, on humanity and on the Earth. Do you want to segue into that part?
Yeah, that is so interesting. And I think it also has a connection to Atlantis again. Um, so we have three major shifts happening since November last year, when Pluto, the our most outward planet in astrology, at least, moved into Aquarius after spending, I think, 14 or 18 years in Capricorn. That was a huge shift in a collective consciousness. Then we had Neptune moving into Aries only a month ago on March 30th. Also, huge shift from its home sign, Pisces, where it felt so comfortable and where we we're kind of floating along. And now with Aries, the sparks will fly with Neptune. And then in July, in the beginning of July, we will have Uranus moving from Taurus into Gemini. Those three planets are our collective planets. They are transpersonal because they are so far out in our solar system, and because their rotational cycle is so long. Uranus 84 years, Neptune 164 years, and Pluto even 248 years. They are very slow movers, but they are very thorough too. And I think this is going to, and they are going to form trines on and off. And a trine is, if you combine a trine in the chart, you will receive a triangle. That's why we call it the golden triangle, because these trines, at least two planets of those three, are always in a trine constellation, and a couple of times we have all three of them in a trine, and that is major energy coming in from those transpersonal planets. And I think this is very unique. It will continue until mid of 2029, so a long circle that is a cycle that is forming now. I think that we have very unusual opportunities to develop ourselves and the collective, because Pluto is the planet of metamorphosis and power, upheaval, but also talks about our individual spiritual path. Neptune symbolizes our capacity of expansion, our consciousness, transcendence, and also talks about unconditional love. And here we have the connection maybe to Lemuria again. Don't know. We would have to figure that out more. And I think with Neptune moving into Aries, a lot of illusions and deceptions that we have experienced in the last couple of years will come to the light. And it will not be easy, that is sure, but it is necessary. And Uranus, the system crasher, um, because it loves innovation and invention of the new. And if we are not budging and moving, because humans tend to be lazy and a bit, well, I do not know, let's not say lazy, but they love to be, to be left alone. And evolution
Well,
is not
yeah,
our
no,
preferred.
I think comfort it makes us very lazy. I just have to admit we are
Yeah, I
lazy
think
when we're
so.
comfortable. And Uranus just says, "Oh, let me just put a little fire under your butt."
Yes. And in Gemini, it will nudge us towards technical and spiritual innovation and invention. So, and it is also, all three planets talk about extraterrestrial life in their specific way. So we have a lot of energy in the field, a lot of new energy in the field with those planets moving signs. That is huge. And we have already experienced a bit of Pluto's energy moving into Aquarius. The revolutionary energy is in the field. And especially also in the spiritual field, where there is a lot of upheaval happening now, I believe, and I feel. I think we have to expect a lot of innovations, also a lot of volatility in the field, and this is happening for the next 4 or 5 years now. So I
Good
think,
times. Good times.
yeah, in a way, but it will not be easy. I think it will
No.
be very challenging for us
Yeah.
who are more prone to the status quo than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and just with the whole Uranus Gemini energy, there's also talk of, well, the mind, right? The thinking, because Gemini is your, right, you get your thinking mind. It's air, and it's rapid thinking, and it's thinking from both on the very materialistic plane, but then also on the spiritual plane. And then here you have Uranus coming in and not only revolutionizing that, but I just see how, on the one hand, there's a risk of a lot of insanity
Yes.
coming in, like that's on the
Yes.
low side, right? But on
Yes.
the high side, I see the potential for us to be able to really work at much higher levels of intellect that, go, because if we use AI properly, so right, not it does the thinking for you, just it's facilitating certain things. Because when I started working with AI, when it wasn't that long ago, because I was like, I don't know, I don't want it to do my thinking for me. I'm like, I'm just going to experiment with this. I see how easy it is for it to just do the thinking for you, and getting lazy, right? Going back to that, getting lazy. But with Uranus, we could harness the power of Uranus to say, okay, how can I use this tool to really help me think at a much higher level, because it's opening up branches and possibilities that perhaps before were not as quickly available to me. Like it would just take a little bit longer, right? Like we already experienced this when the internet came in and we had all the access to this information right away. But at the same time, you would get easily overloaded and lost down rabbit holes. And then you're like, where was my original thinking? And, like we've all experienced that. But I think that with AI, with the proper way of using it, where you tell it exactly, like, okay, this is my goal. So remember, this is the goal. And you're going to do things a certain way and bring information together, and you're analyzing it and creating new ideas based on that output. I think, I don't know, that's just an example of how I see like that Uranus can really help us expand and accelerate our thinking in a positive way for finding new solutions to some of our most stubborn problems.
I love I love what you shared, Elizabeth. It is so along the line of my thinking too. Um, I would like to add an additional layer to Uranus in Gemini, because Gemini, well, it is sometimes it has sometimes a bad rap, because it's the chatterbox zodiac sign, with a lot of diverse information and communication energy. But I also believe it is a very psychic sign, where we receive a lot of what we call downloads, what
Mm-hmm.
we could call channeling. So
Mm-hmm.
with Uranus, which is also representing our creative intelligence and our spiritual freedom, in Gemini, we are, yes, a lot of people will go insane because they start channeling and they do not understand what's happening to them. And if we receive those massive downloads, and it is not easy to receive them, I understand it. I mean, your brain gets fritzed, and your mental state becomes very unstable. Again, Uranus and the electromagnetic energy it also holds. So if we use the Uranus Gemini energy well, we will be very psychic. And this would be so amazing, because then we actually could use AI as it was, as we might, as it was intended, as a tool to help us, and not to take away our creative power. Because that is really something that I fear as a creative person, that I am, that my creativity I want to use AI to, do my dishes and not do my creative work,
Right.
basically.
Yes.
Help
Yes.
me being lazy in some areas of my life that that I do not, um, so I can use my creative potential with Uranus Gemini for the greater benefit of all. So this would be really interesting. And I myself, when I use AI, I start quarreling with it straight away because it's just so erratic. Where we have been we have been experiencing since Pluto moved into Aquarius for the first time. I think then ChatGPT was presented to us, so we have it around for 2 years now. And look where it is now. I mean, the evolutionary intensity and pace is impressive.
Mm,
But if AI can do it, we can do it as well. And I think we can do it even better and more creative,
yeah, absolutely. More inspired, shall we say.
more
Yeah.
inspired. Thank you.
Yeah, wow. Well, we've covered a lot of territory, and it was really so inspiring. And thank you so much, Miriam. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we close up?
Yes, I would like really to invite people or the audience to look up their Atlantis asteroid in their chart and the opposite side of Atlantis, and let me know if the idea that I that I am exploring at the moment, the Atlantis Lemuria axis in our chart, does it make sense, and how does this idea wake up old memories in the audience? How do they remember their times in Atlantis and Lemuria? Because I think everybody who is guided to look up Atlantis in their chart definitely has a connection. It makes so much sense. And if the energy is in the field, why not use it for the collective to move towards New Earth in a more inspired and in a more conscious way than we did last time?
Beautiful. Yeah, and how do you think people, or how do you recommend people look it up? Does a website like astro.com do that for us?
Yes, astroseek.com or astro.com. There you can find Atlantis, the asteroid, and you can track it in your chart. It is easy, and if they need help, I think they can both come to you and to myself, and we will help them to find their Atlantis point in their chart for sure.
Yeah, yeah. All right, great. And yeah, your information, contact information, website, and everything will be in the information, the description field. So anyone who's interested can connect with you directly. And thank you again so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me. It was an
Thank you,
absolute pleasure.
Elizabeth. Thank you, Elizabeth. It was definitely a pleasure. And yeah, we started to talk about some topics. I think we need another discussion and another conversation and dive deeper into all of that.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Good. Thank you.